Hey everybody, I wanted to make a video on the current political climate in the United States of America. I don't want to talk about the different issues or the different candidates specifically. I just want to talk about how the race is being run from a spiritual standpoint. It seems like this race has been dirtier than any other race we've ever had in the United States, as far as I know. It's been really dirty as far as both candidates pulling up things against each other, and one candidate in particular seems to have a lot more dirt uh, in his past than the other candidate. But really, it's what I want to talk about is how the media has handled this. The media seems to be focused on the smaller issues rather than each candidate's plans for policies in the United States. It seems like either candidate's plans are not ironed out. They both seem like they're running off of what Democrats or Republicans have done in the past, and not necessarily coming up with new ideas to make this country better. And I don't think that this country ever stopped being a wonderful country to be in. I don't think that we've fallen from a time where we were better. I honestly think that there's a lot of people that will say, "Oh, look how we were in the '50s. Everybody had so much politeness, and there was so much properness in the way you did things, how you talked." But what we like to forget about our recent past in the United States is that there was segregation, Jim Crow laws, the KKK killed innocent black people in churches with bombs. And the only people it was really great for in the recent past in the United States was rich white men. Women had less rights than they do now. All minorities were treated much differently, and cops had even more free reign back then than they do now. And now the only reason we're finding out about police is that there's cameras everywhere. They have body-mounted cameras. There's cameras on everybody's phone. And there's traffic cameras and cameras outside businesses, and that's why we're finding out about it. When it comes to politics, what I care about is people. I care about how the weakest people are going to be affected by the political strategies of either candidate or either party. How is a poor child that is living in a house where there is little to eat, not because of anything he did, even if you say, okay, his parents are poor because they don't take initiative to get better jobs or to provide for the family. Okay, let's say that's the case. Should that little kid suffer just because his parents are bad at getting a better job and making the right amount of money to provide medical care and food for their children? Should that person be punished? Or should the government actually help those children and say, okay, even though there might be a chance that your parents are bad at making money and providing for you, you still deserve something. Whenever we talk about social welfare, it should always be about the children first. And not necessarily about the parents, but I also believe the parents too, but the children are faultless. They have no control over what their parents do or how their parents behave. And we should always care about that. This affects just a wide range of people in the United States alone. And they are the weakest. The ones with the least power, ones that are children, ones that are not brought up in families that can provide for them, or even if they choose not to, do provide for them. They don't have the best education. They don't have the most knowledge about their surroundings because they might not have access to the internet. They might not have access to information about the world. The government should be a safety net for those children first and foremost. When we focus more on tiny things in the election, like emails or chauvinism, or I'm trying to be very careful here, but things like that, we throw the weakest people in our country by the wayside. We don't think about them, and we don't say that we actually have a problem in providing for them, because we do right now. And the mentally ill never get talked about. And they're really the ones that are the hardest to understand, because they have diseases that you can't see, that are purely chemical and organic within their brains, that you can't see what's wrong with them, but they have a really serious problem with them. And those people aren't talked about very much at all. And we need more mental illness advocates. And, I'm schizophrenic, and I had a long time in my life where nobody knew what was wrong with me, but I was in a lot of depression and pain before I got medicated and before I came to a place where I became a better person through spirituality and compassion for others. And that's why I always have an interest in that side of things. And, there's nothing that creates opportunity better than proper education and chances to do well, even if you don't have a lot of money. Our public schools are defunded. They're in Detroit. Let's just give an extreme example. In Detroit, schools and police stations are actually moving out of certain parts because they don't have the funds or the capability to provide for the communities. And that's happening to lesser degrees all across the country. Public schools are being cut. They're the first ones to lose money when things are cut. And it's really sad, because teachers are so very valuable for the future of our nation, for the future of humanity altogether, and in the United States as well. Even though we are considered a first world country, there are some third world country conditions in this country. And if we're gonna approach all of these issues as far as helping the weakest people who need the most help but are often provided for the less, we really have to look at it from a compassionate viewpoint. And my compassion comes from a spiritual standpoint, in believing that we are all part of the same soul, and we are all, the only reason that we are here in creation is that our individual souls are separated by illusion from God, and that we need to work towards union with God. You can be compassionate and not believe in God, but I am compassionate for many spiritual reasons. And, I ask myself a lot of time, would I be compassionate if I wasn't spiritual? And I ask myself that every day, and I'm like, most likely yes. Because even if God doesn't exist, people deserve to be in a place where they can be the best human they can be. Humanity needs to value human life more than wealth. There's an old Buddhist saying that a single moment of a human life is more valuable than all the wealth in the universe. And while that might seem extreme on the surface, it's really true, because sentience is nothing to joke about. Consciousness is nothing to joke about when it comes to its value. It is very valuable, much more valuable than any piece of material, any gold ingot, or even plant and animal life. It's very valuable. Of course, animal and plant life has certain degrees of consciousness that we shouldn't, undervalue. But human life is so important, and that's why if we help the weakest among us, if we help those people who need it most, we can literally increase the value of the human experience on this earth. And that's my spiritual point of view. And I tied this into politics, and I talked more about politics at the beginning of this video, but really this is a human issue that transcends most religious dogma and politics. And we have to decide, are we going to help the most helpless?